I watched something last week that literally made my blood boil. And I don't get angry very often, but I'm talking red hot rage mixed with this deep sadness. And honestly, it completely changed how I think about that voice in my head. You know the one I'm talking about, that constant critic, the one that tells you you're not doing enough, being enough, achieving enough. The one that sounds like it's keeping you sharp, keeping you motivated, but plot twist, it's not a coach, it's a troll. I watched this documentary called Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. It's on Netflix at the moment. And do you remember that awful, awful show, The Biggest Loser from the early 2000s? If you don't, lucky you. But basically, the premise of the show was to get obese people to lose weight as fast as possible. And the more weight you lost, the higher the chance you would win like this massive prize. Anyway, the documentary is on Netflix at the moment, and the behind the scenes footage is absolutely horrific. Like 8-hour workouts, massive public humiliation, contestants literally collapsing from dehydration and getting sick while the cameras roll. But here's what really got me. We actually watched this. We called it entertainment, and we absorbed this message that transformation requires humiliation, that shame equals motivation. And I'm saying we, maybe not, but as an elder millennial woman who grew up in peak diet culture, I realized how much of that shame as motivation kind of narrative I have internalized. And if you're a guy, before you tune out thinking that this is just going to be about weight and women, your version might be about being the provider, staying strong, never showing weakness. It's the exact same troll. Shame as motivation. It is the exact same troll. So in this episode, we're diving deep into why that inner critic isn't actually helping you. And first, I'm going to break down the actual science on shame versus self-compassion and what it does to your brain. Then I'm giving you 3 specific strategies to replace that troll voice with an actual coach. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why treating yourself like crap doesn't create any change. It creates anxiety and self-defeat. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll have some practical tools to coach yourself differently. Because honestly, most of us are walking around with that inner troll we've mistaken for a coach. And my friends, it is time to fire that bitch. Hey, I'm Noemi, former queen of bad habits and corporate go-getter turned well-being coach and personal growth junkie. And in a world full of overwhelming wellness advice, we're here to cut through the noise. This is your space to master healthy habits, transform your mindset, own your well-being, and design a life you love on your terms. We're ditching the highlight reels and embracing the whole messy, imperfect journey towards becoming our absolute best selves. You're the author of your own story. So are you ready to write the next chapter? Let's go, and welcome to Unwritten Potential. All right, let's start with why this matters so much. And here's what's happening in your brain when you're being self-critical, when you're allowing the troll, when you're allowing that voice to criticize you. Your brain processes that harsh inner voice as a genuine threat. It's the exact same neural pathways that activate when someone's attacking you or someone is yelling at you. And this triggers your threat detection system. Cortisol, your stress hormone, floods your system. The learning center in your brain gets impaired. You literally think less clearly when you're being harsh with yourself. But self-compassion, completely different response. You activate the caregiving system, which releases oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone that calms you down and keeps your thinking brain online so you can actually problem solve and learn. The research is super clear on this. Shame-based motivation creates anxiety and cognitive impairment. You end up thinking less clearly, whereas compassion-based motivation enhances your performance and enhances your resilience. Now, we absorbed this totally backwards message from decades of cultural conditioning. The Biggest Loser, that stupid show from the early noughties, it wasn't an anomaly. It was peak shame culture. We grew up thinking harsh criticism equals high standards. But here's what the troll voice actually does. It activates your brain's survival mode. You're not optimizing for growth here by being unkind to yourself. You're optimizing for threat management. Carol Dweck, she's done a lot of research on growth mindset, and her research shows that this totally kills the growth mindset entirely. And before you think, but I need some tough love to stay motivated, the neuroscience disagrees, my friend. Studies show self-compassionate people actually have higher standards and better follow through than their self-critical counterparts. They just don't destroy themselves when they fall short. The difference? A troll just tears you down with absolutely zero constructive input. A coach sees your potential and gives you tools to get there. And if you're still thinking, come on, surely a bit of tough love works. The research on weight stigma says otherwise. Shame doesn't create change. It creates anxiety, depression, and a cycle of self-defeat. BJ Fogg's work on habits tell us that to change any habits, we need to feel positive emotions. We need to feel good about ourselves. Your brain evolved to respond to care and connection. When you treat yourself with the same kindness you would show a friend, a colleague going through a rough patch, you get the neurological benefits of support without needing anyone else to provide it. How awesome is that? You're basically hacking your own nervous system. Be your own manager instead of your own toxic boss. Be your own best friend instead of your toxic ex. Yet most of us are walking around with that inner troll we've mistaken for a coach, right? I'm not immune to it. So if the troll isn't helping, how do we coach ourselves differently? What do we do instead? Let's break it down. So I wanted to share with you 3 strategies. And the first one is call out the bitch, or whatever name you decided to give your inner troll. And Brené Brown nailed this. That voice speaks in absolutes. Always, never. That voice attacks who you are. I'm disgusting, rather than what you did. I ate a big lunch. So try the best friend test. Would you ever tell your best friend that she's pathetic or that he is a failure? Of course you would not. You'd be appalled if anyone spoke to them that way. So why do we think it's acceptable when we do it to ourselves? Here's a question for you. What's the line your troll repeats the most? You know the one. The sentence that plays on repeat in your head. Say it out loud right now. Now ask yourself, does that sound like something a coach would ever say? Or does it sound like some weird heckler on the sidelines? So when that inner critic pipes up, try to reframe with curiosity. Instead of, oh, I'm so lazy, maybe try, I'm exhausted. What does my body actually need right now? The coach voice asks, what could we try instead? The coach voice would never ask, why are you such a failure? Strategy number 2, that's the reality check. This one's based on Kristin Neff's self-compassion research. I've talked about her in a previous podcast. I'll link it down below. It's a 3-step practice I personally use constantly and that I often encourage my clients to explore. First, notice the suffering. And that might be okay, this is really hard right now. This really feels like shit. Then second, remember you're human. I know, you're a little superstar, but remind yourself that you are human. Everyone struggles with this. And then third, offer yourself some kindness. And that could be, okay, I will be gentle with myself. Whatever works for you, but try these 3 steps and then add an evidence check. What would you tell yourself from 5 years ago? What growth are you not acknowledging? And here's something wild. Your body often knows what you need before your brain does. When the troll gets loud, check in with your body. What is your body telling you? Usually it's something simple and kind. I need rest, water, fresh air, a hug, a meal, some carbs. Actually, this connects back to the neuroscience I mentioned earlier. Your body's wisdom bypasses that critical brain chatter. It just knows. Strategy number 3, the good enough. Okay, this one's a game changer, my friend. Start practicing good enough with small things. I'm a perfectionist. I've talked about this before. It's really hard, but try practicing good enough. The email that's good enough to be sent, the workout that's good enough for today, whatever it is for you. Not everything has to always be perfect. Sometimes things can just be good enough. And when making decisions, ask yourself, what do I actually value here? Choose the path that honors your values, your real values, not some arbitrary standards you absorbed 20 years ago. Get curious with yourself instead of confrontational with yourself. Oh, that's interesting. My brain's doing that thing again. I wonder what triggered it. Try to create some distance without resistance. Because here's what happens when you practice good enough. You start to see that perfectionism isn't actually about high standards. It's about fear. Fear of judgment, fear of not being worthy unless everything is flawless. Again, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm trying to be better. Good enough gets things done, my friends. Good enough creates momentum. Good enough is actually perfect for building the life you want. And honestly, the people whose opinion actually matter, they're not keeping score the way your inner troll thinks they are. All right, let's bring this home. Your inner critic is not a coach. Your inner critic is a troll. And the research proves that shame doesn't motivate, it paralyzes. If you remember one thing from today, remember this. Transformation doesn't come from humiliation. It never has and it never will. It comes from connection. It comes from compassion. It comes from curiosity about what you actually need to thrive. Whatever your troll voice is about, whether it's your body, your bank account, your parenting, your career, it is not helping. You don't have to keep listening to it. Because honestly, you deserve a better coach than the one that shame culture gave you. We all do. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to dive a little deeper, check out this week's newsletter. You can visit go.unwritten.coach/16, and that will bring you to this week's show notes and a link to the full newsletter. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode. So good to spend a bit of time with you today, and I will see you next week. Bye.